Earth was never called the hero's second coming, and even if he was told he was talented or had his worst day ever, nothing would change the day that he met this man who had changed his life. He shed a tear, as everyone he once knew had now turned their back on him. How did this come to be? Earth was sent tumbling to the ground as a girl towered over him. He and the girl apparently had been sparring with each other, and she had won as someone called the match, while people cheered around them. That girl was known as Princess Fiancée, the daughter of Solja, one of the 7 heroes. She was a very talented swordsman who had remained undefeated. Fiancée called Earth naive, saying that he had yet to master his sword as a magic sword, but his skills were improving. Earth accepted his defeat, calling her princess. And Fiancée was annoyed by the honorific, telling him that the two of them were equals at the academy, as well as childhood friends. She was disappointed that he had not beaten her once, criticizing the boy for his mistakes and seemingly showing his face after every defeat. Fiancée de Pardia, the nation's imperial princess, and not once has Earth taken first place from her since they had both enrolled at the academy. She continued to nag Earth's ears off until he had heard the 2 girls talking behind him, complimenting his skill and saying that they wanted to get to know him better. This had caused Fiancée to twitch as they talked more about him, making her dash to the girls and ramble on about how they should give up on trying to fall for him. Earth was shaking with annoyance, knowing that Fiancée would blow away every chance he could get from a girl. She suddenly asked Earth if his father, the hero, would be disappointed. Earth held his fists tightly as he hung his head. Students poured through the halls, talking about how they did on the tests or how they were exhausted. The nearby guards watched in disappointment about how the new generation was lacking, but that was fine since it was the case that the world had already attained peace. They walked down the hall until they noticed Earth practicing after having lost to Fiancée again. They remembered how his father, Lord Hero, had gained the hero title, and how he was a talented person as well, but were disappointed for him to fail. The 7 heroes. They were the 7 brave people who saved the people from the great demon king, and Earth's father was one of them. However, even as the son of a hero, his abilities were lacking, causing him to always be in second place. Earth overheard the guards and walked up to them. The guards started to give him a self-imposing lecture, one he was tired of hearing all the time. They reminded him about how his father made many feats at such a young age and how Earth would be able to be trained by the Imperial Knights after he graduated. By some coincidence, Earth's father had walked into the area, confusing Earth as he was usually busy with work. His father had started to brag about his past achievements, even with his son's predicament, until Earth had cut him off by asking his father if he could beat the princess if his father taught him swordplay from scratch. However, his father said that he was busy with work and told him to continue following the academy. This did not satisfy Earth, as he knew that his father had done nothing in helping him pass the high expectations that everyone had placed on him, and he could still do nothing to beat Fiancée after all this time of training. He burst out in anger, claiming that his father didn't care about his efforts, and telling him that it would be nice for even the smallest of praise. After leaving his father and other people in silence, he scoffed and started to walk away, while his father called out for him, but he didn't turn around. Earth walked home to his expensive-looking mansion, walking through the gates. He walked around the corner and noticed the maid watering the plant. She greeted him with a mischievous smile, telling him to return to class, calling him something uncalled for. This lady was Earth's family's personal maid, Sadith, who was taken in as an orphan and was more like a distant sister than a maid to him. Despite that, he wanted her to be his wife someday. After explaining his earliness, she asked if it was because he lost to the princess again, but Earth started to explain that he could just miss class and still become an Imperial Knight, something that he thought his father and everyone else wanted. He was tired of being compared against his will only for him to disappoint people. Sadith spoke with empathy, telling him comforting yet encouraging words about how people couldn't help but want to observe his growth, and to hope for him to grow even more. Earth blushed, knowing that Sadith always supported him when he was down, despite her usual personality. She suddenly said that if he did his best, she would give him a special reward, which caused him to jump in surprise. However, she continued her words by saying that the reward was his favorite omelet when he was a kid. She noticed his reaction, making fun of him for seemingly thinking of something else. Sadith quickly changed the subject by telling him that it was time for the annual cleaning of the sealed room. They walked into a dungeon-like area, where weapons lined the walls and candles lit the way. Sadith gave Earth a ring of keys and told him to enjoy himself with the Sword of Legend, while she went back for some more cleaning supplies. As she left, Earth stood in front of the large door, many locks covering it. Before he was born, a great war occurred in the world. One side was the demon race, and their leader, the Demon King. The opposing side was Earth's father, with the 7 heroes leading humanity. But in the end, humanity triumphed, and the king was slain thanks to his father's sword, before being sealed behind a door. As a kid, his heart used to race every time he saw it, but now that time was over. After unlocking and pushing open the heavy door, he realized something different about the room. There was a stranger standing there on the pedestal. They turned around, and Earth stood there in shock, not knowing what to do. He didn't know whether that person was a man or a woman, or neither at all, but he knew that they were a demon. The horned person recognized the boy as Hero's offspring, and asked if he could see them. Sadith walked into the room, asking what was happening until Earth warned Sadith about the strange person. But Sadith said she couldn't see anyone there. She dismissed his words and walked over to place down a mop before walking out again to go draw up some water. The strangers spoke again, confirming to themselves that Earth was the only person who could see them. Suddenly, Earth grabbed the mop and jumped back, using his magic to try and use the mop as a weapon. The stranger recognized it, but said that Earth was far off compared to Hero, causing the boy to attempt an attack of rage. But the stranger swiftly dodged it. They said it was pointless, as they were but a spirit, and would tell Earth their name since he was the first in a long time. Their demon was known as Trainar, the same great demon king defeated by his father. This was a person that nobody in the world could not know the name of, a name only spoken about in textbooks. There was no way Earth could have met such a person. What a strange dream, he thought, as he seemed to have woken up in his bed, with Sadith worriedly standing over him. She hugged him with relief when he asked her why he was suddenly in his room. Sadith explained that she had apparently found him unconscious on the floor in front of the pedestal, but was glad that he was okay now. He glanced up and realized that the meeting wasn't a dream at all. Trainar was floating over him casually. Sadith still didn't know what Earth was talking about, which caused Earth to dismiss it. She quickly left to go make dinner, leaving Earth with the smug demon. He believed that Trainar wasn't lying about his identity, asking the man why he was in the armory. Trainar explained that when he was defeated by the hero, his spirit had been trapped in that sword for more than a decade, and Hero stored the sword without that knowledge. Earth wondered if he was being haunted by the ghost of the great demon king, but Trainar explained that because of his spiritual body, he couldn't interact with the world, and seemed to be unable to separate himself from Earth. Without hesitation, he ordered Earth to take him to the outside world after having been imprisoned. Earth immediately refused, causing the demon to smirk, and claimed that Earth was going to now obey and bow to him. The boy immediately reminded the demon that he already said that he couldn't interact with the world, causing him to suddenly start pouting. Earth also said that he couldn't go out that night anyway. After enough time of annoying the boy, Earth had given in and told Trainar that he would take him on a walk through the city. Earth put on his clothes and left the room, Sadith noticing and asking where he was going. He said that he was going to town for a bit, but Sadith wasn't satisfied with that answer, suddenly throwing cutlery at the boy and pinning him to a wall, asking him if he wished to die. Trainar was impressed, wondering if this woman really was just a maid. Sadith said that she wanted to pamper him that day, but after seeing him skip class and seemingly healthy enough to go to town, she felt as though a punishment was needed. After Earth had an exhausting night, Sadith let him go and he was finally off back to school. But Trainar was there as well. He floated around, observing the different human contraptions in amazement. Earth asked Trainar what he thought of the town so far, and what he said next surprised him. Trainar had noticed that society had seemingly forgotten about the crisis from before, the states of the people wanting to make him cover his eyes. He said that if he were alive, he would destroy everything in the area. These simple words made Earth shudder, but it quickly went away as the demon dismissed his thoughts, since they supposedly didn't matter. Trainar claimed that he lost and that there was nothing he could do now. Earth was amazed at this scene, thinking it was strange that the demon he saw in front of him was vastly different than the bloodthirsty king he saw in his textbooks. The man before him had much broader views while he looked over this city, watching almost like he was lonely. Though he did have one regret, back when he was fighting with Hero and his party. Hero had put the power of every human in the world into the sword as one attack, bringing down Trainar with so much power, definitely killing him. He was angry that he was overpowered so easily when he was one against so many. Earth tried to ask him about his allies, but Trainar immediately dismissed it, causing the boy to think that he struck a nerve as they continued walking through the town. The demon glanced over to an advertisement about a series that he had apparently recognized and demanded that Earth would buy it, or else he would mumble in his ear all day long. Earth begrudgingly went to the store to get the book, still talking to him out loud before Trainar let him know that he didn't need to do that. Once Earth had arrived at class, Trainar asked who one of the people in the class was. He told Trainar about Fiancé, daughter of the spear-wielding hero. Traynor was impressed by her ability to understand the curriculum, but also by her incredible magical aura surrounding her. Earth had felt disappointed by Traynor telling how amazing she was until his thoughts were cut off by the teacher bashing a book on his head to get his attention, and telling him to stop staring at Fiancé. Everyone around them started to make fun of him about that, while Fiancé started to blush wildly. As punishment, the teacher wanted Earth to name the magic eyes of the world and the ones that Traynor possessed. Earth didn't feel confident in being able to name them, but Traynor had told him the truth. After Earth told the teacher what Traynor told him, the teacher was angry and told Earth that he was to stay after school, while the boy accused Traynor of lying to him, to which the demon said that the teacher was just inaccurate. The last words of the teacher before the bell rung was a reminder of how Earth was meant to be a top performer and better not screw around in his match. As Earth left the class, Traynor asked what match the teacher was talking about. A graduation match, where the top performers fight in a tournament to display their skills and abilities to the king and nobles. Earth was participating due to his grades, to which Traynor asked if he prepared at all, but Earth said that he was only preparing himself for embarrassment. Traynor knew what was happening, telling Earth that he knew that he felt as though he couldn't win against Fiancé, or was just an embarrassment compared to his father. He knew Earth wanted to get back at the world, as he seemed to have resigned himself, being no different from the genius stuck in the well after giving up when his weakness was realized. Earth had enough, telling the demon not to mess with him, but Traynor shot back by saying that he couldn't surpass his fool of a father, who only succeeded by miracles. The boy was taken aback, reminding Traynor that he was the one that lost to the very man and then cried about it. Earth wouldn't hear anything that came out of the mouth of the demon, but Traynor didn't like how Earth was speaking to him. His entire aura about him changed, and the boy started to stutter as anger laced Traynor's eyes. The demon grabbed Earth's face and yelled at him that the boy would serve as proof of how powerful Traynor truly was. He wanted to use the boy and teach him the power that he, the great demon king, held, and show everyone, and the world, his supreme power once more. Traynor told the boy that the match had yet to happen, so he wanted to test the boy, but Earth immediately refused. There was only 2 months before the match, but the boy didn't believe that anything could change in that short of a time. The demon said that he had the potential to grow, but Earth said that Fiancé would always dismantle all his efforts no matter what, leading him to always end up as a disappointment. Traynor asked what it was Earth's goals were, to which he responded that it was to become an Imperial Knight for now, but the demon asked if he really decided that for himself. Earth was stunned by this question, remembering that everyone else wanted him to just follow the same path as his father. Was he really his own person? What did he really want? Traynor cut off his thoughts by saying that they were going to make it Earth's winning match in 2 months' time, while Earth was to find something to motivate him during those 2 months, and how even an impure motivation could be best. When they finally went home, Earth set a ladder on the grass and asked Traynor what they were doing. He explained that it was ladder training, which would increase stamina and agility, called the magical step. Suddenly, the demon started dashing forward between each step, while screaming out loudly and dramatically landing, confusing Earth. The boy thought that the demon looked like a beetle while making an example, offending the man. He continued to teach Earth different jumps, but the boy continued to make fun of the man with his imaginations. The zigzag jump reminded him of children doing the same, but Traynor quickly told him to pay attention with a threat. He ordered the boy to do the jumps as shown, while also using his magic with each step. As Earth prepared to do the jumps, it seemed as if his body wasn't moving like he wanted it to. Traynor explained that the ladder training trained one's footwork, athletic ability, and agility. By learning how to use magic while stepping, he would also be able to use magic while moving, his error being that he was too focused on the stepping. It was common for someone's body to not be able to keep up with their mind, and if he conquered that, he could sync them up. Earth felt the determination flow through him and continued the training. By the end of the day, he felt completely exhausted, but he knew that things needed to change, as he realized he was in worse shape than he thought. Traynor said that after the ladder training would be physical techniques, but Earth asked him when they would work on swordsmanship. However, Traynor said that was something they would never work on, as Earth had no talent for it in the demon's eyes ever since they met. His father's skills utilized intense magical power from an extraordinary ability, but Earth didn't possess such ability. Those words made the boy shatter, feeling as though everything in his life was all for nothing, until Traynor told him that he possessed something his father did not: flexibility. This was something that was similar to another one of the 7 heroes, Earth's mother, the priestess Mamu. Traynor explained that if he grew by focusing on his individual talents, he could even be able to defeat his own father. The boy started to laugh, but it was something that he wasn't against. He quickly got up and asked the demon to guide him down his path. Suddenly, Sadith appeared and asked him who he was talking to. She noticed the ladder and recognized as something he would be using for training, but quickly remembered what she was here for and gave the boy a menu of food for next month. Traynor told the boy that she made the menu with critical detail, meaning that she cared a lot about his health. Earth was touched by that, knowing that Sadith had always been there for him when his parents never were, and he felt more than just sisterly feelings for her. The demon encouraged the boy to confess his feelings, and he did. He got her attention and told her that in 2 months, he would win his match, stunning her. He stumbled over his next words, wondering what would be right to say for what would happen after he won, before completely throwing all the emotion away by saying that he wanted her to let him touch her chest. The boy quickly realized his mistake and tried to apologize for it, but Sadith was already not pleased. However, she agreed. It was something she wouldn't be too happy with, but wanted the boy to win, and agreed to his repulsive request, confusing him greatly before she left. Now he was fired up, feeling as though he could win anything. What he didn't know was that soon in the future he would become the worst and lose Sadith. But right now, Traynor told the boy that they were done with warming up. Now it was time for the boy to fight Traynor directly. There were 2 known standard techniques in the world used for physical training. Shadows, a technique where a person would imagine their potential enemy in front of them and avoid their potential attacks, and sparring, a technique where it was basically a mock battle between 2 real individuals. However, because Traynor was an apparition, Traynor would be combining the 2 and would name it phantom sparring. And now, Earth would be dueling the demon in a mock battle, something that he thought would be interesting. Up until now, he had only had mock battles at school against people who were either too weak or were the princess herself. It was difficult to accurately gauge ability within the school, causing Earth to have no real practical experience. But now, it would be fun for the boy to fight with the real Demon King. Traynor landed on the grass and said that he wouldn't fly too much during the fight, and told the boy that he didn't mind if he used magic. Earth was confused as he didn't know if Traynor could hit him directly since he was just an apparition. The demon chuckled before smiling widely, telling the boy about something he can do with his power. Dashing forward, the demon stabbed Earth in the neck, or so he thought. He fell to the floor in shock and held his throat shaking. Traynor was amused at the sight, while the boy realized that he only imagined himself dying, and even if he didn't feel any pain, the feeling couldn't leave his mind. Traynor started to mock Earth, asking if this was all the son of the hero could handle. Those words enraged him, and the boy had charged forward impatiently and tried to attack Traynor. He wasn't impressed. But Earth had something up his sleeve, trying to get Traynor to focus on his fist while he kicked him. But suddenly, Traynor's fingers were pointed at Earth's eyes, and the boy was stopped in his tracks, feeling as though his next step would mean death. He jumped back and held out his hand, using a thunder magical attack before quickly stomping the ground and causing an earthquake with magic. Suddenly, Traynor had disappeared, but the demon had floated above him and landed behind him, saying that he thought the boy was attacking intelligently before he used just another straightforward attack. Earth magic was superior to thunder, and the demon was impressed at Earth's use of it. However, he also wanted to use this as a lesson and came at Earth, wanting to show the magnitude of power that he possessed. Elsewhere, Fiancé had awoken. She had a lot on her mind, especially after what happened that day with Earth. She had a nostalgic dream when she was younger with the little heroes who took her away to her dreams. A knock cut her out of her thoughts as a maid walked into the room, saying that there was a letter there for her. Once she had noticed the emblem on it, she gasped. Coming back to our protagonist, Earth laid exhausted on the grass as Traynor said that they were going to spar like that daily alongside the ladder training. Earth was disappointed that he couldn't land a single hit on the man when the demon only used regular physical techniques that humans do. He was killed in his imagination so many times, causing the boy to decrease in confidence with each loss. In the past, he was proud of himself and thought that he could pass through life by beating the others even if he could never beat the princess. Traynor asked the boy if he was despairing, to which Earth disagreed, saying that he just never realized how truly weak he was until that day. Suddenly, a thought popped into his head, and he asked the demon how his father managed to beat him. Traynor scoffed at Earth's lack of knowledge, while the boy tried to give the excuse that his father was busy and whenever they would talk, it would turn into lecturing about his past. The demon asked if the boy ever truly listened to those stories and sighed, explaining that the road to becoming the hero that defeated the great Demon King wasn't an easy one and should be a story that Earth should learn. To Earth, his father was always just the source of his complex, but Traynor wanted the boy to have a new perspective on his father's wisdom, as it may actually make a change. Hearing this made Earth wonder what anguish from the past the adults had went through. Earth told Traynor that he wanted to know about his own past, if he ever felt like it, how humanity managed to beat this great demon king. The next day, Earth was making his way to school and walking through town, his legs still feeling heavy from yesterday. Traynor was disappointed that they couldn't get to work on forbidden spells that day, and Earth sighed, now knowing that there was more to the training in the future. Someone called out to him, and the boy realized that Fiancé was standing next to a stall. He greeted her, quickly correcting himself to call her by her name, and said that it was unusual to see her at town, as she usually went by carriage, especially with escorts, since that didn't seem to be the case. The girl held a cup in her hand, and the boy asked what it was, to which she was about to explain until she realized that it was empty. She tried to make an excuse, claiming that she was told of delicious juice from the stall and that the cup was empty because she had just finished drinking and not because she had been waiting there all morning. Quickly changing the subject, she walked over to his side and said that since they ran into each other, they might as well go to school together. But Traynor knew exactly what was happening. During their walk, Fiancé asked Earth what his plans were after graduation, to which the boy said it was nothing special. She continued and reminded Earth that the matches were not going to be just simple mock battles, as important people from surrounding countries would be there, also including the fact that she would soon be announced as the next queen. She asked if he was aware of how she felt, and Earth confirmed. He knew that, as princess, she was expected to one day rule the country, and what they have aimed for has been different ever since they were kids. His current motivation was definitely different than hers. She started to blush, asking the boy if he was truly staring at her during class, to which he shrugged and confirmed without a thought on why she was asking. Suddenly, she announced that she was going to win their graduation match and announce it to the citizens. Earth was surprised and hung his head, knowing that he normally would have told the girl to do her best, if he was still the old him. He apologized and told Fiancé that he was actually going to be the one who would win, the last day's training helping him realize his true potential. He wanted to show his cool side off to Sadith and everyone and know about his father's past. To do that, he needed to win, telling Fiancé that there was something that he couldn't give up. She asked him if that was his confession to her, causing the boy to blush in confusion. He didn't want her to find out about his deal with Sadith and immediately agreed to her question. Fiancé had blushed more and told the boy to let the both of them fight wholeheartedly in their match. The two of them smiled at each other while Traynor watched, knowing that the both of them were not thinking of the same thing. However, he knew that the battle would be entertaining and stayed silent. Suddenly, excited screams were heard as Earth and Fiancé had walked into the front of the school. Just as Earth was starting to pick up on his skills and confidence, he had forgotten something important. Rather, some people. Not only was Fiancé a barrier that stood out in front of him, but there were also the two others that he was worried about, and they had finally arrived at the school once more, greeting the students around them. Many years ago, when Fiancé and Earth were children, Fiancé is seen studying at her desk. She heard her name being called from outside her house. The lady next to her told her that she needed to concentrate as it was time to study. Her name was called again, and that was all it took for the small girl to open the window and jump off the windowsill. The lady who was teaching her had ran outside to see what was happening, only to notice the other children and recognize them. One of the boys had used a magic spell to prevent the girl from falling and harming herself. These boys were Earth, Fu, and Rival. The lady told them that the princess was studying and they were not to disturb her or else she would report them to their fathers. Earth and Fu had grabbed sticks and stood in front of Fiancé, saying that what they were doing was considered studying too and that they would never hand her over. Kate Kyoshi told Earth that he couldn't be a hero if he acted the way he was, but the boy said that she was wrong as Fu was the best mage, Rival was the best swordsman, and Fiancé was the best lancer. Earth claimed that he would exceed his dad and become the strongest hero in the world. Sadith had walked in and jokingly told Earth to defeat her. This was just a story from Earth's childhood, surrounded by friends with the thought that he would someday have powers like his father's. He had no doubt back then, but now reality had hit him like a brick. Traynor asked what was going on, and Earth explained that those two were also children of the 7 heroes and were Earth's childhood friends. Rival Jainin, son of the Master Swordsman, and Fu Medai, son of the Grey Mage. Fiancé explained that they wrote a letter saying they were coming back after studying abroad. Traynor asked about the studying abroad, to which Earth explained that it was customary for the school to make their first and second place to have the choice of studying abroad, Fiancé having declined and causing the other two to have the chance. Rival and Fu had noticed Earth and Fiancé and walked up to them, greeting them. Rival asked Earth if he had gotten at least a little stronger while they were gone, offending him. Fiancé asked the two men about complications she heard that they had gotten into during their study abroad. Fu explained the situation casually, saying that there was a group of fire dragons who flew in and Rival and him fought against them as a suppression unit. The two of them showed their medals to the women around them, to which they loudly cheered. Traynor noticed how different the children of the 7 heroes were, until suddenly a student asked Fu to show them the power he had gained from studying abroad. He walked up to some targets and told the students to not expect too much, preparing himself and using a magic spell of his. They were wondering if the power of that spell was supposed to be low level and what it would be if Fu went all out. Fu asked the students if it was disappointing to them, but they said it was amazing. Earth was angry at how seemingly unaware Fu was of his power, while Rival was wondering why the man was surprising to everyone. The long-haired man told Earth that the two of them came back from studying abroad with absolute power, and at that point, Earth would never beat them. Earth claimed that he was being too cocky by showing off Fu's magic, asking what he had to show. Suddenly, Rival's sheathed sword was at the neck of Earth, and Rival was behind him. Rival claimed that it was too much of a waste of effort to show off his skill to the academy-leveled people. The long-haired man asked Earth if he knew why the two of them finished studying abroad and came back so early. It was because they were going to participate in the royal tournament and win. Him and Fu were the children of the 7 heroes who will inherit their father's generation. No, they wanted to exceed them and dedicate their victory to a certain person. Earth realized that it wouldn't just be Fiancé in that tournament, but Fiancé was also fired up for the battle. She walked up to them and told them that she wouldn't be giving up on the victory. Rival glared down at the girl and knew her strength, telling her that he wasn't going to lose this time. Suddenly, Rival had went on one knee and said that when he won the match, he wanted Fiancé to let him become a candidate for her hand in marriage. Everyone, including Earth, was shocked, and the girls of the academy cheered. Fiancé admitted that she only saw Rival as a friend, to which the man said that he already knew. He also said that he knew who she truly had feelings for. He claimed that he wanted the chance to be seen as a man. Earth watched with no interest, knowing that the world wouldn't complain about this marriage and wished them the best. Traynor had suddenly come in to call the scene pathetic, and tell the boy that even Rival couldn't win against the Earth. The boy was not confident he could, saying that he couldn't possibly win against those two men. The demon chuckled, knowing that the two of them fighting that fire dragon, the mega-tier magic competence, and the mere visit to another country were all just child's play. Traynor told Earth that the children of the 7 heroes would be surprised to hear that he had defeated the Dragon King of the Underworld. That would require Exa-class magic. Earth was bewildered by the information given to him about things he had never heard of before. The demon explained to him that 2 months with guidance from him would give the boy more skills than what Rival and Fu may have gotten in their year studying abroad. Traynor wanted Earth to have trust in him, as Earth was now the disciple of the great demon king of the land he once almost conquered. Earth had suddenly interjected himself into the moment and got the attention of Rival, telling him that he was going to be the one who won instead. Before this announcement, Traynor was telling Earth that he was going to give him guidance, and the boy asked if it was going to be a devil's contract. The demon disagreed and told the boy to proclaim his goals to the people, and that's exactly what he did. Rival understood Earth's proclamation, as the boy said that he had something he couldn't give up on too. He was going to overcome this man. Suddenly, the girl started to cheer for Earth as well, confusing him as he thought they were going to boo him when he didn't read the room. Fiancé was kneeling on the floor and covering her ears and face, blushing wildly at the scene that was occurring before her. She misunderstood the situation and thought that the two men were professing their love for her, and she thought that the thing that Earth couldn't give up on was her. Fu didn't know who to support, as they were both childhood friends of his, and stayed neutral on the matter. Earth stood confused, looking around at the situation he had caused as Rival glared at the boy with annoyance and anger lacing his eyes. Everyone had gotten past the situation and went to class. This class was math. Traynor watched the teacher and scoffed, calling it low level for a class that's supposed to be raising the Empire's most elite. Ear thought that the demon was just talking bad about the curriculum, but Traynor explained that he didn't see the use of writing math expressions on paper and solving them. He claimed that as long as someone understood the proper system and how to execute it, all one would do is substitute the numbers and perform something called an automatic calculation. Earth was confused and asked what that was, but the demon said that it was better to show rather than explain. Now ready to prepare the boy to acquire this new magic and tell him what to do next. He told the boy to draw a magic sigil on his paper. The boy did so, and then he told him to cast the spell that he was about to teach him. Earth softly said the words out loud as his hair started to float, and that was when equations started to float in the air around him. This was a spell that he had quickly mastered just that moment, an invention that Trainar had invented on his own. Earth picked up the feather and was about to write the answer until he realized the answer was already written down. The boy was confused until Trainar explained that the incantation would have any formulas referenced by the invoker done automatically to save time. Trainar called it Excale. He continued to ramble on about his magical